over the something that he said about the Charlie Kirk situation and all that. And for me, it's like I said, it's a slippery slope. There's a little bit of irony involved. There's actually a lot of bit of irony involved because part of it is the idea that he essentially got canceled or whatever because of things that he said about Kirk, but then also MAGA, and then also the way that they're handling it, essentially. And if you go watch the footage, it's really not that harmless. Like, it really and truly isn't. It's one of those things where we're living in a society now where, and I'm talking about America specifically, where we're seeing these dominoes starting to fall. We're seeing freedom of speech getting taken away. We're seeing an increase in violence. We're seeing an increase in just a bunch of crap. And me being a black man in America who's kind of always had this like umbrella of crap throughout my history and my legacy, not me personally, just like my lineage and my ancestry and my genetics, it's interesting to watch the dominoes fall in the way that they are. Because honestly, I wasn't expecting it to fall so quickly, for one. And then two, I also wasn't expecting it to be so violent. Well, I take that back. I think the violence was actually expected to a degree. But I think a lot of it, for me anyways, is the idea that our freedoms are being taken away slowly under the guise that it's like, oh, well, you know, you said something wrong, so therefore you can't do that anymore. And that's the short of it. And trust me when I'm totally oversimplifying for a variety of reasons, but that's the short of it. What you're seeing is like a whole situation where everything that you say can now be scrutinized. Hell, even things that I say in this episode can be scrutinized and taken out of context and put in a plane where I may or may not be jeopardizing my career or my future or my family or whatever. And so it's a little scary. It's a little scary because I don't want to sit here and think that like, oh, we're doomed, we're cooked, we're doomed, we're cooked. But a lot of me thinks that we're doomed and we're cooked because there's not really like any heroes or anybody really stepping up to the plate and being like, well, this is wrong. That's not happening. And that's the problem, right? For me anyways, where it's like, yeah, sure, you have Bernie Sanders who's been yelling to the sky about all this crap for years now, but Bernie Sanders is also like 80 years old. And like who else do you have? You have AOC? Sure. You have Gavin Newsom? Sure. But it's not a full movement behind this regime that we're seeing being built right now. And like I said, there's not really much that we can do about it because there's a lot of apathy and there's a lot of lack of empathy. A lot of thieves going along right now, to where people feel like they're entitled to a certain level of respect, which I feel like every person should be entitled to a certain level of respect until you lose it, right? Until you say something crazy, until you say something wild, or until you offend on a level that is like harmful to others. These are things that you have to consider when you're trying to be out here doing the things that you do, right? If you're watching this on YouTube, the stream might be a little glitchy, but just listen. I'm trying to do a double screen right here because YouTube tells me to simulcast and simul stream. I don't know how effective it is or not, but I definitely have a better stream going on the vertical video versus the other one, to the point where I actually might stop the other one. But I digress. Crap's getting crazy right now, and I don't even really have any advice. It's like usually I have like some type of cool wisdom or insight. But I think the best thing that we can do right now is just continue to follow the signs and follow the patterns. Like when I was reading up about this, someone on Reddit mentioned something about Hortz Wessel. Hortz Wessel, I think is the name that is going around the internet right now. And Hortz Wessel, if I say his name right, is essentially like the 1940s German version of the Charlie Kirk situation, in the sense that he was taken out by rival parties, Communist Party at that time, and the way that the Nazi Party took that information and spun it, they turned him into a propaganda machine, to the point where I guess this guy was a musician, and they used his song as like the main like Nazi anthem, like after his passing. Like that's like how much impact and how much propaganda this man was used. And they did the parade, like when they were like honoring this man, they like walked in front of like the Communist Party houses and all that stuff to like flex their influence through this man's demise. And it ended up being a very important stepping stone in that takeover. And so these are just things that you kind of have to look out for a little bit, because, you know, these are patterns, and everybody's talking about Project 2025 and all this stuff. And the thing about that is that is something that is kind of following that Third Reich playbook. There's a lot of similarities, already things that are happening, that the parallels are actually kind of shocking when you look at it, to where it's like, oh, maybe they actually did like read up on Mein Kampf and all this and decided to run these plays. Because like I said, if you did a side by side, and maybe we'll do an episode like that, maybe we'll do a side by side one day this is not a political channel, like I said. I'm just like a messenger, I guess. I don't even know. I just know that like I don't want to turn this channel into a political thing, but I know that vibes right now are kind of uneasy. And so I feel like with the little bit of voice that I have, it should be good to try to speak on these things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to speak on them. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. We can actually go ahead and move on to the main event of this topic here. And I got to set this up to where I can put this on the vertical screen too. But the main event topic here is this so first of all, before I show you guys this photo, I'm going to preface this by saying that we as humans really, really love to argue about lists and who's the best and how you became the best. It's very fascinating, actually, like when you really think about it, just because it's one of those things that like really all comes down to opinion at the end of the day. There are metrics that you can go by, and if you're going by metrics where it's like, oh, well, so-and-so sold so many records, or so-and-so did so many films, sure, those are statistical proofs. But for the most part, it's all, especially when it comes to like hip hop and when it comes to like rap and all this, it really is based off of opinion. And so I bring this all up because there is this silly little list here, and I'm gonna see if I can bring it up here on the vertical here. This silly little list that came up. And it's not even a list. It's actually interesting. It's a spin on something that we're all familiar with in terms of, you know, the lists and top fives and all that. So if you're on my vertical screen right now, you'll see this little thing, and I'm gonna bring it up on the horizontal, even though I know the horizontal is glitching. We are recording this though, so it's all good. Where'd it go? Right here. Is this it? Yeah, this is it right here. Boom. So as you can see, we have now evolved from Mount Rushmores and the like to full-on pyramids now. Now we have hip-hop tier pyramids, okay? This is what we're doing now. We're doing hip-hop tier pyramids, which I guess is a way to like kind of justify like legacies and stuff like that. But the thing about this particular pyramid, which is, by the way, like the first of its kind that I've seen, I've never really seen anything quite like this before. It's creative. Like I said, we had the Mount Rushmores for a while, and now we're doing pyramids. So because we have the vertical screen, you might not be able to see it. I'm gonna go ahead and list everybody that's on this tier on this pyramid real quick. And you guys can go ahead and tell me and tap in who you think is missing from this pyramid real quick. So on the top tier of the pyramid, we have Kendrick Lamar, Jay-Z, and Nas. And the tier below that, we have Eminem, Tupac, Biggie, Kanye West, and Andre 3000. On the tier below that, we have Lil Wayne, Ghostface Killah, MF Doom, Ice Cube, who's that? Lupe Fiasco, Lauryn Hill. The tier below that, Drake, J. Cole, Common, Q-Tip, DMX, Scarface, Mos Def, and Prodigy of Mod Deep. And then on the final tier, the bottom tier, we have Jadakiss, 50 Cent. Not exactly sure who this is. I thought it was Kanye at first. Actually, this is like the only person on the list, so I don't know who this is. Let me actually see if I can get a better look at this photo real quick when I bring this up over here. I'm going to zoom in and shit. Because I don't know, I thought it was Kanye, but now as I realize that Kanye is on the top tier. Big Boy. It's Big Boy from Outkast. So Big Boy from Outkast, Pusha T, Freddie Gibbs, Raekwon the Chef, Public Enemy, Chuck D, Method Man, and then Guru. Now, this list is crazy, bro. And the reason why it's crazy is because, one, it's set up in a way to where you don't have a greatest rapper of all time. They made up a big three around Kendrick, Drake, and Nas, right? And it's like, sure. You can justify all their positions as the top tier of this pyramid metaphor. Based off, I guess, I don't know what criteria they're basing these three off of, because you could argue that if it's based off of record sales and money, then Kendrick doesn't really belong on that list because Kendrick doesn't have the record sales. So is it based off of success, level of success? Sure, Kendrick's last run has been pretty damn good. I mean, this man went on a world stadium tour and did a Super Bowl, dropped the #1 album, etc. and so forth. So yes, he's on a really good run right now, but compared to like a Jay-Z and a Nas and like their runs back in the early 90s, I would still think that Kendrick has a little bit more work to do, and people might argue me with that. I don't know. That's just how I feel. But if you're looking at it from a financial aspect, I mean, okay, both Jay-Z and Nas are extremely rich, especially with Nas and his business deals with Coinbase and a couple other things. Like, okay, Nas is pretty rich, but Jay-Z obviously is on the tippy top tier. So, but Jay-Z hasn't dropped an album in almost 10 years. And that's just the fact of the matter here. This is why I always get kind of irritated about the Jay-Z conversation when I look at like the spirit of hip hop and the spirit of like what music actually is and what we're trying to do this for. Like, Jay-Z literally has not really done anything for the last 10 years. Yeah, he did put out that verse in that Khaled album. He did have he's popped out a couple times of a couple verses. But if you look at bodies of work on that top tier, when you look at Kendrick, you look at Nas, you look at Jay-Z, yeah, sure, Jay-Z had a really great run and he dropped 11 albums, but then he disappeared in a really crucial time in hip hop. And during that time, Nas has given us 6 albums, and he did Mass Appeal, bringing back a lot of older rappers like Raekwon and Slick Rick. And just the impact that he has had on hip hop is far greater than what Jay-Z has done over the last 10 years. I have to make sure I qualify that, because if I don't, y'all get in your britches about it. And so over the last 10 years, I think Nas has had way more impact in the hip hop community, in the hip hop world. And with Kendrick, it's kind of like, I mean, if we're using the same metrics, that's all I'm doing here, because I know a lot of Kendrick fans will be upset at this. But if you're looking at the same metrics, you can't put Kendrick in the same tier as Jay-Z and Nas, because he hasn't had that much of an impact on hip hop outside of himself. The only artist that he's ever really put on directly has been Baby Keem, who's only put out 1 album. He has Sierra Leone, I think, or Tiana, I forgot his name. The other person on PG Lang who is going through issues already on the record label. There's people on this list who have done a lot more in that sense than Kendrick has. So, to be honest, like, I feel like Kendrick's slot on here is probably the most egregious. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, before you guys get mad at me. But I feel like Kendrick Lamar's slot on here is probably one of the most controversials, because if you're looking at all the metrics, taking all the metrics into account when it comes to record sales, impact, legacy, longevity, etc., so forth, can you really put Kendrick Lamar on that top tier? Because the only thing that Kendrick Lamar really excels at is his storytelling ability and his ability to rap. His ability to rap is what puts him in the top tier next to Nas and Jay-Z. But when you look at all the other metrics, you look at everybody else that's on this list, and we're going to go through most of them, I don't think that Kendrick deserves that slot, man. I would actually maybe sub him out with like Eminem or maybe even Kanye. Now with Kanye, we'll go ahead and go to the next tier now. So this next tier is Eminem, Tupac, Biggie, Kanye, Andre 3000. Okay. And with Andre 3000, it's almost the same argument with Kendrick, where it's like Andre 3000 is easily one of the greatest rappers of all time. This is not debatable. He's that dude when it comes to his ability to tell stories, rap on the mic, etc., and so forth. But his impact legacy wise, sure, Outkast, Dungeon Family, he's done some things, but he's kind of been like, I don't know, record sales, sure, accolades, yes, he has rap Grammys, etc., so forth, but he's probably the most questionable in this tier. Also, when I look at Biggie, and a lot of Biggie fans are gonna get mad at me for this because that's just how they are. It's as time goes on and we get further and further away from the death of Notorious B.I.G., it gets a lot harder to argue his GOAT slot. Now, when he died back in 1997, whenever he passed, yes, sure. At the time when Biggie died, he was the greatest rapper in the world. But since then, we've had several generations of rappers. We have so many advancements in hip hop to where if Biggie was still alive, yes, the industry would be shifted. It would be changed. I think it'd be different. But I don't think Biggie would even be rapping anymore, honestly. He would probably be doing like movies or TV or things like that. But he only has 2 official albums. And this is my biggest argument with Notorious B.I.G. I said, I love the man, and Life After Death and Ready to Die are 2 of my favorite albums. But they're only 2 albums. They're only 2 albums. And I get it. He passed before he had time to make more music. And of course, Diddy constantly just shoved music down your throat, right? To where you just have to sit there and listen to all the different Biggie remixes that exist out there. And there's a billion out there, right? And so as time goes on, we're now like 25, 28 years past this man's demise. Can you say that Notorious B.I.G. is still one of the greatest rappers? Like top, what's it? This is top 6? Is he top 6? With all the rappers that come out, I still think that he still has a spot in the top 10. I still think he's still one of the greatest rappers of all time. I'm just saying that like time really does tell all in all this. So yeah, I think he's fine in this tier, I guess, I suppose. Tupac, Eminem. Eminem is pretty self-explanatory. Eminem is the most successful rapper in terms of record sales. He's also the biggest crossover artist in terms of hitting white mainstream media. He's one of the best rappers technically. Record sales speak for themselves. He's done movies. He's done TV shows. He's rich as hell. He hits all the metrics. And honestly, if you want to talk about it, I think the reason why Eminem is not on that top tier is because he's white. That's just being real about it. I think that like if Eminem were black, same complexion as Nas, he would be automatically on that top tier. But because he's white, you can't give him that pass. I don't make these rules. Like, I'm not trying to be like racist about it. I'm just literally looking at like what I know about how a lot of my friends and family and cohorts feel about Eminem. I know people out there who just won't listen to Eminem, period. They just can't do it. And they find him annoying, and they find him corny, and they find him overbearing and overexposed, and that he's part of a system. And some of these things are kind of true, for being real about it. But he's by far the most successful hip-hop artist in the history of hip-hop, period. Period. Like, that's not debatable. So, like I said, it's always interesting to see like people where they place Eminem, but you'll never see Eminem in the lower tiers. Pretty much anybody will agree that Eminem is technically one of the best rappers out there, and his record sales speak for himself. So I don't think we'll ever see Eminem in lower tiers. So we'll go ahead and move on. On the third tier over here, we have, let's see, Lil Wayne, Ghostface, MF Doom, Ice Cube, Lupe Fiasco, Lauryn Hill. Very interesting tier here because I feel like this tier is where the metrics change. Because all these people, with the exception of Ice Cube and Lauryn Hill, are like spitters, right? They're rappers, or they're like real purists of the craft. Not saying that Lauryn Hill and Ice Cube aren't, but Lauryn Hill was in Sister Act 2, y'all. Ice Cube has a whole ass career of movies. He has his own damn basketball league now. Know what I'm saying? But the rest of them, when it comes to like Lil Wayne and Ghostface Killer and Lupe Fiasco, they're known for their rapping ability. Not necessarily record sales, but their ability to tell stories and the ability to rap. So I feel like the metrics like shifted like a little bit. Because when I go back to the top, sure, Jay-Z is an incredible rapper, as is Nas, as is Kendrick, as is Eminem. But when you look at Kanye, I don't know, man. Like, I love Kanye West, kind of used to, not really so much anymore these days. But when Kanye West, like, I wouldn't put him in like the best rapper category, right? He's a good rapper. He's like basically like an all around character where he can make great beats, do great raps, and make great music. But I wouldn't put him in like the top tier barsmith category of hip hop. That's just something I wouldn't do. So like, that's just weird. Like, cause like I said, it feels like the metrics changed on this third tier. MF Doom, like, he's not even like really a mainstream artist like that. He doesn't have the sales. He doesn't have like the accolades. He doesn't have the Grammys. He's just a really pure hip hop artist, arguably one of the purest, right? And so it's interesting in like this tier, like I feel like the metrics changed. Now, this fourth tier, I think is like probably the most controversial to me, simply because you got Drake on there. And I mean, Drake is the second most successful rapper of all time behind Eminem. He might be the most, he might have passed him up at this point, but Drake is, he's a beast, bro. Drake literally has been the most successful rapper of my generation and has proven that time and time again. He's put so many people on in terms of like impact, legacy. He has the record sales, he has the business, he has the money, he has all that. But they knocked him down to the fourth tier. And that's how I know two things from this list. One, whoever made this list is definitely a Kendrick Lamar fan, 100%. And they're one of those hip hop purists. They're not looking at the whole thing. Now, I don't even know who made this stupid pyramid. If you know, please let me know. But like, dead ass, bro. If you're looking at this like for what it is, Drake needs to be at the very least in that third tier. At the very least, the third tier. Putting him in the fourth tier is pretty disrespectful, and that's regardless of how you feel about Drake. That's regardless of like, oh, the ghostwriting, oh, the beef, whatever. Regardless of how you feel about Drake, if you just look at the stats and look at the facts and look at what he's done, he's undeniably one of the greatest rappers of all time, period. That's just how it is. Even if you don't like his music, you have to like accept that for what it is. So like I said, whoever made this is probably a Kendrick Glazer. Is what it is. We'll keep moving. But you have J. Cole next to him. Now, the fact that you have Drake and J. Cole right next to each other in the same tier is just ridiculous to me. Because if you look at all the metrics that I just stated, when it comes to record sales, when it comes to accolades, success, charting, people you put on, Cole is not anywhere in the same category with Drake with any of those things, other than maybe putting people on with like Jid and Dreamville. And that's what makes this tier all wrong, because you got Common on here. Now, Common is a dope rapper. He's really dope. He's a great actor too. But what are we talking about now? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, things are getting skewed here because you got Common, Q-Tip, and DMX all in the same tier. First of all, if we're talking about DMX and we're talking about impact, we're talking about sound, we're talking about the culture, we're talking about sales, he needs to be higher. Now, if we're not talking about that, we're just talking about bars, then fine. But we don't know. There's literally no other metrics other than just like vibes on this. So like, if I'm sounding like I'm getting frustrated talking about this, then you probably know why, because it's like, what are we basing this off of? And on the same tier, we have Scarface, Mos Def, and Prodigy. What are we doing? First of all, Scarface is incredible producer, incredible businessman, etc. and so forth. But sales, no, he's not doing it in sales. He's had a couple of hits for sure. But you know who's surprisingly missing, who I would put in this tier, probably, maybe even a little bit higher? LL Cool J, Rakim, Black Thought. Those are the first three that I saw that were missing from this, which is crazy. And then Prodigy, low-key, I like Mobb Deep, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of a gimme slot because he passed away. I feel like if Prodigy was still alive, he would not be in this list. Same with Guru at the bottom tier. I love them both. They're both incredible rappers, some of the greatest rappers of all time. But based off the metrics of what I'm trying to kind of identify what they're trying to do here, I don't know. And then the bottom tier is just kind of a mess. You got Jadakiss, fine, but no sales. He doesn't have the sales like that, which is not a big metric for me. But like I said, I'm trying to like figure out what they're trying to do here. He does have the bars. He does have the ability. He does have like the clout. But then you got 50 Cent right next to him. And it's like, if you got 50 Cent next to Jadakiss and you think they're on the same tier, that's crazy. 50 Cent should be slightly higher based off of sales, accolades, and overall success. 50 Cent has given us power, et cetera, and so forth. Jadakiss, great rapper, but he hasn't done much outside of hip hop. So how can we give him that pass? You got Big Boy on the same tier. What is going on here with this list? I feel like on this last list, they just threw on their favorite rappers who they thought deserved a clout. Because you got Jadakiss, 50 Cent, Big Boy, Pusha T, Freddie Gibbs, Raekwon, Chuck D, Method Man, and Guru all on the same tier. And I can't even break down why that's just messed up. And that's how I know that after that third tier, they're just throwing artists on the wall. Because Method Man, for example, are we basing this off of accolades? Are we basing this off of clout? He's part of Wu-Tang Clan. I would put Method Man higher on this list. Same with Raekwon. Pusha T, sure. I think we might need another tier. You know what I'm saying, for Pusha T, because Pusha T doesn't have the sales. He does have like the legacy, and he can rap, but he doesn't have the sales. And like most of the people in the world don't really know who Pusha T is like that. They only know Pusha T because of Drake. Freddie Gibbs, similar situation where Freddie Gibbs is an extremely talented rapper, but he's still on the climb. I feel like Freddie Gibbs is years away from his peak. Years away from his peak. It's going to be a long time before we see like maximum Freddie Gibbs. Like when he's like on that tier of the plateau of like the most that he can do. We're years away from that. So I look at this, and like I said, it gets all broken down. Because another, like I said, on the previous tier, going back to the tier, was that 1, 2, 3, 4? Most Def, bro, is one of the greatest rappers of all time. Period. Bars, he acts, he's a great guy. He's done a lot of impact and influence. And he has iconic moments with like Chappelle's Show and stuff like that. I would put Most Def on that third tier. I would probably take, so now I gotta think of who I would take off that third tier. It'd probably be Lupe. Because Lupe Fiasco is just a pure artist, right? And he hasn't had that crossover success in a very long time, to where I would say that Lupe Fiasco is like on that tier compared to Most Def. But honestly, I kind of would put Lupe and Most Def on the same tier. So maybe I actually would pull like Ghost. Replace Ghostface with Most Def, I think is what I would do with that. Replace Ghostface with Most Def. And that might be blasphemous, but Ghostface, like I said, I'm thinking about like overall impact as like artistry, right? Like past the bars, past the record sales, like what impact are you leaving behind? Ghostface, we have clones like Action Bronson who sound like him, but Ghostface has never really directly put anybody on. Neither has Most Def, but Most Def has had more iconic mainstream legacy moments than Ghostface has. And so like I would rearrange this whole thing. And maybe they make a new thing. Maybe this is the new tier list and we have the pyramid list, and maybe we all sit down together and we make our own pyramid. Maybe we'll do that on the next live. I'll figure that out. But I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. I appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, if you watched the vertical, it probably came out like better than the horizontal. They told me to do it both at the same time. So if you're watching this on the whatever, I'm sorry. But anyways, I got to get up out of here. I will see you all later. Peace out.